I've been thinking, racking my mind. What is the right thing to say that would entice you to stay and watch more of this video? And the truth is, I don't really know. I don't know what is the right thing to say. That's sort of what the video is about. Hi, my name is Renya, and this is the Come Together Counseling YouTube channel. In these videos, I'll be discussing healing, relationships in the mental health field, all through an anarchist lens. And while you might appreciate and connect with my approach, please remember that we don't have a personal or therapeutic relationship. I'm just someone making videos on the internet, and I hope you find them helpful. I first had the idea to make this video after a podcast I had recorded, at this point a couple months ago, with my friends from Smash the Class. That'll be linked in the description. Yeah, but sort of my immediate reaction after having recorded this was this like knee-jerk reaction of like, did I say the right thing? Because I have perspectives that might be upsetting for some people that are outside of the norm, and I'm very sensitive to how I'm being perceived when I'm advancing these perspectives. So I was really thinking, like, is it possible that I caused harm? Is it possible that people might have big reactions and like lash out for things that I might have said? And I went back and listened to it, and first thing I realized was actually I didn't have much of anything to worry about. I think I did a pretty good job discussing the topics that we were discussing. And so I really didn't have anything to worry about, but it got me thinking about this idea of saying the right thing and how actually that shows up a lot in a lot of different contexts. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about different contexts for saying the right thing, what it means to say the right thing, and yeah, some of the pressures on us that compel us to say the right thing. A previous version of this video, I talked more about some of the mental health side of things in terms of like perfectionism and anxiety and shame. And I do want to come back to those, but I felt almost a need to address like more of the big picture, like things going on first. So that's more so what this is about. I will address those a little bit though. So I think when we talk about saying the right thing and what it is like to say the wrong thing and people's reactions to that, a lot of this connects with our own individual histories of not being understood that we experience growing up. So when we feel misunderstood, that can have real consequences in terms of people interpreting us in a different way. It also just feels bad. Like it feels like some core part of us is not connecting with whomever it is that we're communicating with, and that doesn't feel good. I think this also is very connected to like the concept of alienation, right? Like I feel like we can't say the right thing. We're alienated together. So, like I said, I'll be talking more about the shame and perfectionism and anxiety aspect another time. In my research for this video, I found a lot of the content in this sphere. There's a lot of manosphere type content, some pickup artist. I did find like a communications professional who I didn't agree with everything he said, but I will link his videos in the description. I think they can still offer some help. But I think, yeah, like this conversation about conversing is not something that's often had within left-wing spaces. I think a lot of it, there's just this pressure that is connected to shame around like needing to say the right thing and like social ostracization if we don't say the right thing, right? Being pushed out if we say the wrong thing. And there's so much discourse going on and so much pressure to know what to say and to say the right thing that people don't know where to turn. And the manosphere, these pickup artists, they are providing answers. They're not the right answers, but they're answers. And so there's a reason people find that compelling, and I wanted to provide some counter answers. And And yeah, so we'll be exploring what it means to say the right thing in different contexts. I want to start my conversation of saying the right thing with a conversation of the movie Do the Right Thing. I think a lot of sort of what I'll be talking about, it'll be helpful to have, this movie and maybe some conversation of it to help like ground what's going on. I think also it's a very insightful film. So yeah, I'm gonna get into that. So setting of the film is in Bed-Stuy, which I believe is in Brooklyn. It's a predominantly black neighborhood, or at least it was at the time. The movie came out in, I believe, '89. And the main conflict is along race and class lines of like the people in the film. And so the main character, who is played by the director Spike Lee, his name's Mookie. Mookie works for this pizza shop. The pizza shop is owned by Sal. It's like Italian type pizza shop, so it's like a white family in a predominantly black neighborhood. And so Sal sort of is a capitalist. He's thinking, I'm just here to make money. This is fine. And then there's two sons, one of whom, his name is Pino. He is outwardly very racist. And the other one's name is Vito, who's like a little bit more supportive, but isn't willing to stand up to Pino or Sal. I'm not going to get too into like the aspects of like white family, which I could get really deep into, but I'll suffice to say that this is representative of whiteness and family, which is that you have the father who's the patriarch, who isn't really thinking too deeply about his relationship with the community he's in. Like, he's sort of just here to make money. And then Pino, who's like, I don't want any connection with non-white people. And then Vito's like, maybe could be a little bit better if he was in a different environment, but is unwilling to stand up to his family members. So there's a character named Buggin' Out who specifically points out that there are only white celebrities on the wall of the establishment, like Italians, whatever. Buggin' Out says, hey, we should have some black people up here because this is a black neighborhood, right? Which is pretty fair. And I think it represents this like conflict between public or private space. Like, is this space public space that everyone gets to occupy and that everyone has a say in what that space looks like? Or is this a private space that Sal gets to decide what it looks like and how the business is run, and you can come get some pizza or you can F off. But Bugging Out is saying, hey, let's get some black people up on the wall. And so Mookie, who's employed, sort of caught up in the middle. We see over the course of the film that the tension, it's really, really excellently done via like showing the interactions between different characters and how it's like a really hot day. Like, the tension in the film just like slowly rises pretty consistently. And there's another character, Radio Raheem, who anytime he is on camera, usually he is blasting the Public Enemy song, Fight the Power.
Good, real good, man. Fight the power! Fight the power! Fight the power! We've got to fight the powers that be!
Which I actually learned in my research for this video, they made for this movie. So this song was for this character. And I think it really represents Radio Raheem's sort of like radical desire to fight the power and to like create change. And so Radio Raheem and Buggin' Out are both really displeased with how Sal is looking at the neighborhood as something to just take money out of and not something to like be a part of a community. So they confront Sal, and there ends up being a big conflict. The police come, and Radio Raheem, unfortunately, is killed. So the very end of the movie, Mookie is there, and there's a large crowd gathering that they look like the police leave. The large crowd looks like maybe they're about to attack Sal and his sons. And during this moment, Mookie picks up a trash can and throws it through the window of the pizzeria. And so the question that we're left with is, did Mookie do the right thing? That's the setup. So I think it's important when we're looking at this question of did he or didn't he do the right thing is to ask who is asking the question, like who's getting to determine if he did the right thing or not. Because some people will say like, oh, he escalated that situation. He shouldn't have done that. He did the wrong thing. I don't agree with that. And actually, there's an interview with Spike Lee, which I'll link, that only white people have been asking him, why did Mookie throw the trash can? To black people, it's obvious. I think to me, it's pretty obvious too. Like, of course, he's angry, he's frustrated. Why wouldn't he be? That to put this into context, because I think that the question of did he or didn't he do the right thing needs to be put into the context, which is that on its surface, this movie is about like racial tensions and like this specific neighborhood, but I think it's also about like gentrification more generally, right? And police violence, white supremacy, capitalism, like these are the things which are the backdrop that is driving the conflict of the movie. And so when we're asking, did Mookie do the right thing, we have to keep that these things are the context for his actions. It's not like we're living in a utopia and he just goes and destroys someone's pizza shop. Like this is the real world, and this pizza shop represents something specific in this context. And the other thing I'll add is maybe it almost doesn't matter if Mookie threw the trash can or not, because people were ready to do something. And his throwing that was the inciting action that led to the destruction of the pizza shop. But I think there's a real question of like, if he hadn't thrown it, maybe people would have still done that. And so really the choice that he's left with is he can throw this trash can, expressing his righteous rage and frustration, but maybe not changing the systemic things that are leading to all of this happening. Or he can push down his rage and go home and the same thing still happens. So I think from my perspective, you may as well do it. And there is actually a lot of research that shows that property destruction does lead to lasting social change in ways that other forms of seeking change don't. So I'm going to have some links in the description for that. So my perspective, absolutely Mookie did the right thing. And I think it would have been fine if he didn't do that thing, because the same outcome probably would have happened. So all of this to say, to do the right thing, really it's about, this question isn't about this one action, right? It's a question about the structure of a relationship. Mookie's relationship with the police, with Sal, the restaurant owner, his relationship with his local community. Like those are the things that we want to keep in mind when we're asking the question, did he do the right thing? It's not so simple to take that out of context and to say like, you shouldn't do this thing. This is the wrong thing to do because it's illegal. The question of doing the right thing is about the structure of the relationship and the context that it takes place in. So I'm also going to link to another film YouTuber who had a good video about this. Check that out. Yeah, so that's do the right thing. And now I'm going to talk about saying the right thing on the internet. This is something I've become more and more conscious of as I've been making videos, and I've been paying attention to what other people have been saying about the sort of pressure to say the right thing online. But so, like, what is the structure of our online communications and relationships with each other? What is the structure? In many ways, I think that the communities that we foster online are about shared demographic criteria or some like shared interest, but there aren't always trusting relationships underlying that sense of community. That those trusting relationships would probably more so exist in like a physical space where people have long-standing relationships. So there's almost a facsimile of community, which means that some of the trust that we would have to be able to talk and have conversations maybe doesn't exist, at least on a large scale. So I wanted to use the example specifically of ContraPoints and the trans community on the internet. So for those who don't know, ContraPoints is a pretty well-known trans YouTuber who has been active for a few years at least, and from my perspective, her content is sort of aimed at sort of like people who are coming out of right-wing spaces, as well as maybe more liberal people, definitely queer people, as well as people who maybe are more reactionary towards queerness. So she's not speaking to like the furthest left people who are there already, right? Like she's talking to a pretty wide audience, I would say. And her style is dialogic, meaning that she plays multiple different characters and they represent distinct viewpoints. And we sort of just get to see like this back and forth as she goes through discourse and arguments that we often see played out in the media, played out in the internet. And as a viewer, we're sort of left to work out where we stand, work out what do we think about these different viewpoints, and you know, what do we think? So ContraPoints doesn't give us the answer. She wants us to think for ourselves. And her style is very theatrical, so it really is engaging in getting us to do that. But the context of that is she is not saying her specific perspective directly most of the time. She is advancing the perspective of these different viewpoints. So what has happened is that some trans people took some of these characters' perspectives from ContraPoints' videos out of the context that they had existed in the video and said, ContraPoint says this is what she believes, she has this reductive biological viewpoint on gender, she's not affirming of non-binary people, which as a non-binary person, I never got that sense from her. But yeah, it's essentially like this taking out of context, and that there was a response which was trying to silence her and which was very reactionary in nature. I think I'm not going to talk about cancel culture more generally, outside of to say that in the viewpoints of some people, she had said the wrong thing. And a lot of people who probably didn't watch the initial video were spreading this perspective that ContraPoints had said the wrong thing and shouldn't be trusted. Within this, there's the hidden expectation that maybe she's supposed to be the voice of all trans people and that she'll exclusively say the right thing that everybody that's trans like wants her to say. Um, but that's not possible, like given the nature of how she sets up her content, how she communicates. um, Saying the right thing is not really possible for her, right? Like she says things that other people say and puts them into dialogue. um, so I'm gonna link her video where she really goes in depth and talks about some of the things people online had been saying about her, and the context of what she had been saying, because I think she does a really good job of that. You'll find that in the description and on the side. Um, I think also Khadija Mbowe had a really good video on online communication and sort of like this expectation that people will be right all of the time. And, you know, I'm going to link that one as well because I think it was a really good discussion of the subject. Yeah, there was a lot of pressure to say the right thing online and a lot of vitriol that comes from saying the wrong thing, whatever people perceive that to be. And I think, again, I'm going to hint at it, but I'm not going to get super in depth today. It comes from a place of shame. Shame of not of it being hard to see somebody not understand something that, you know, we are also trying to show that we do understand. And part of that is by like pushing people down, we show that we get it. But at the same time, that by pushing people down, we are making it a very difficult environment to learn. So it makes it very difficult to say the right thing. What it does is it encourages people not to speak. So that is sort of that is what is motivating people online. Is there's a big motivation to just not speak. If you're worried about saying the wrong thing, people are going to get on. People are going to be upset. Might as well just not speak. So I'm going to change track here and talk about my role as a therapist and my desire to say the right thing in that context. Because I think it provides a little bit of a contrast to what I've been talking about thus far. So, what is the therapy relationship? For me, not everyone will agree. For me, the therapy relationship is about being present and supportive and sort of giving the people who are coming to therapy an environment in which they can explore and talk about whatever it is they need to say. And so, in that context, me saying the right thing is about listening and reflecting things that people are saying to show that I'm listening, integrating different parts of what people are saying, because to show that I'm thinking and I'm like reflecting and I'm like making those connections. Mirroring, so like showing that if people are feeling something, that I'm not just this cold robot, but that um, I'm acknowledging their emotions with some reaction. Um, and I think the piece that I really want to highlight is that a therapy relationship is different from most other types of relationship in that it's the therapist's responsibility to be a safe person for the relationship. Um, it's to be expected in this context that difficult emotions will come up. I think something that is true that I've seen a lot is that past harms or past experiences of being harmed can come up in a safe relationship, a safe environment, and that sometimes that plays out between people, and that's the responsibility of the therapist to navigate with care and with respect. Um, and theoretically, if something happens, there can be some repair, meaning that maybe there's a misunderstanding, maybe the therapist did say something that was harmful, but it's not so harmful to end the relationship, that there's a possibility of working through that together. Um, Now, there is a tension with um, therapy and therapist occupying this role of being a safe relationship. And that is the connection between therapy and policing that exists in our society. From the point of view of a client or patient, depending on which word you prefer, saying the wrong thing can lead to your rights being revoked, right? It can lead to mandatory treatment, involuntarily being incarcerated in a mental health facility. It can lead to issues with regards to the custody of your kids. Um, saying the wrong thing to a therapist or social worker can have really negative consequences. And that makes it really hard to trust them. So the structure of the relationship, and this is the point I'm going to keep coming back to, which is the structure of the relationship, which is that sometimes people can build trust with the right therapist that they feel they can share these things with, and there won't be a big negative result. But for some people, there isn't a right therapist because you have this valid concern that they're surveilling and policing you, and that is what the law asks of us to do. Um, you know, some therapists view their role as being about the management of problems that will never go away, or adapting to an oppressive environment, or silencing the dissent that we're experiencing so that we can, you know, function in an oppressive environment. Um, I think this can be really harmful, but so there is the structural tension of the therapist wanting to provide a safe space in theory, and as a client or as a patient coming to a therapist knowing if I say the wrong thing, bad things could happen. Um, yeah, so that's because of the structure of the relationship. So this next piece I'm going to talk about is being understood. Let's talk about specific different relationships. So, in an intimate relationship, it's one type of relationship we can have. That is a relationship where we feel a degree of vulnerability, connection, and openness. And in these relationships, we feel safe, we feel comfortable, we can be ourselves. We can just communicate without worrying about if we're saying the right thing or if we're saying the wrong thing. In this space, there isn't really a wrong thing to say. We can just be ourselves, and we can anticipate that the other person will understand. This is something that's really special, and not everyone has this. Um, but yeah, I wanted to just sort of like define this, and I think also when we feel this level of vulnerability and connection, that lends itself really well to a relationship changing over time. In contrast to that, um, non-intimate relationships are often under the influence of hierarchy, or sort of the state of one person being above another, and um, Anarcho Relating made a great video about that, which I'll be linking in the description. Um, most of the time, we will not be understood in our own terms, which is what makes intimate relationships so special. Most of the time, we have to pay attention to and manage the expectations of a relationship, given that we don't have an equal footing with the person we're in this relationship with. So the structure of the relationship, which can be like a named power, such as a boss or a landlord, or it can be systemic power, which is the way that people from different identity groups will have different relationships with regards to systems of oppression, and then that plays out interpersonally. That really heavily influences how we communicate with each other. If we're in maybe a group of similar people, saying the right thing becomes about signifying that we are a member of this group of people. If we completely lack power, or maybe not completely, but if to an extent we lack power, saying the right thing is about survival. And it's not so much about true, authentic expression, right? Like that doesn't even enter the picture. We have to focus on saying the right thing to ensure our survival in this relationship where this other person has power to do something that can be harmful to us. Where power exists, language is always an expression of that power. So it's not so much about should we say or not say the right thing, right? It's about that the language reflects what is happening outside of language. Um, so the way that power intersects with shame is really something I'd like to talk more about. For here, what I'll say is that power and oppressive systems seek to induce shame as a way to exert control over us, because if we're feeling shame, we will self-surveil and self-police so that we don't have our full range of emotional expression. And when that shame is internalized, it spreads in our relationships with our communities and our intimate relationships so that we police other people the same way that we police ourselves. So remember I was talking about ContraPoints, communication on the internet. People might feel like some form of expression that someone else is engaging in is wrong because they feel like they are not allowed to or cannot engage in that form of expression. Therefore, they seek to publicly shame the person who's engaging in it in this way. I think if you were to look at a lot of right-wing, like public messaging, you'll find a lot of it is these people should be so ashamed of themselves for being the way that they are. And since they're not ashamed of being the way that they are and trying not to be that way, we should just get rid of them, right? That's what the right wing tends to say, even though it's hidden a little bit. If we don't fully process our shame, we will never feel understood because our understanding of ourself is being processed through that layer of shame. Hence, we don't fully understand our own self. So, which isn't to say you can 100% fully heal shame in a society that seeks to always induce it. So there's layers. In terms of healing from shame, I do have a video on healing from trauma in 3 steps. I'll link in the description. Talk more about that in the future. But so, just to return to this idea of saying the right thing. If we view language as an expression of the structure of a relationship, it's not the language itself that is causing harm, but the language that expresses the relationship that is already occurring. And so within that context, saying the right thing becomes about what is already happening and what are we trying to do to address what's happening. So solidarity is about dismantling structures of hierarchy that are reflected in language. So for me, the concept of saying the right thing and doing the right thing, this is where they converge, is about being in a state of connection with people in which we are all collectively working towards our shared liberation. Meaning that maybe we won't always address each other in the way someone who knows us better would address us, but that we are both working together to alter the structure of our relationship, the structure of what is causing us both harm. I'll give you an example. There are some people who really try to get my pronouns right, but I know that they don't really care about me. And then there's some people who will do a lot to show support, but for whatever reason, the pronouns are really hard. I would much rather have that person in my corner than the person who is very on top of always getting the pronouns right. That's not super important. Because as a non-binary person, I'm far more worried about the state or the government enacting legislation designed to harm me than I am worried about, you know, someone I run into getting my pronouns wrong. Um, but I will also say that the transphobic legislation leads to higher incidences of people not understanding or respecting how someone would like to be referred to. Also, when it comes to solidarity, when we're in solidarity with other people who are in oppressed groups, people with something to lose, the people with power in that dynamic who are not in solidarity, those are people will be convinced that you're saying that you're doing the wrong thing. Because from their perspective, the right thing to do is to shut up and not do anything because they're benefiting. So they're going to be convinced that we're saying and doing the wrong thing. And I think that people with a certain amount of power and privilege will look at Mookie throwing that trash can and say, yeah, Mookie did the wrong thing. You know, he should go write to his congressperson about this. Like, what? The people who think that saying and doing anything is wrong, I think they're wrong. So there's another piece where we can tie these things together, which is that as Mookie was throwing the trash can, he shouted the word hate. And earlier in the film, Radio Raheem, he has these two things on his hand, one that says love, the other that says hate. And he has this conversation about sort of the dialectic, or like how those two opposites come together of love and hate.
Let me tell you the story of right hand, left hand. It's a tale of good and evil. Hate. It was with this hand that Cain iced his brother. Love. These 5 fingers, they go straight to the soul of man. The right hand, the hand of love. The story of life is this. Static. One hand is always fighting the other hand. And the left hand is kicking much ass. I mean, it looks like the right hand love is finished. But hold on, stop the presses, the right hand's coming back. Yeah, he got the left hand on the ropes now, that's right. Yeah, ooh, it's a devastating right hand. Hate is hurt, he's down. Ooh, left hand hate, KO'd by love.
And I think is when Mookie's saying that word and he's throwing the trash can, he's expressing his frustration. But it's not really about hatred. It was more of a rallying cry of like against the injustice that he had just experienced. And I think we should hate injustice. And I think that hate should also be connected to our love of ourself and the people around us. So in that action of Mookie shouting hate, he's actually embodying love, like his love for Radio Raheem, his love for himself, that he had a lot of anger based on how he was being treated and how Radio Raheem had been treated, that it's out of love that we can act with frustration and hate the systems that harm us. So I do think that Mookie was expressing both love and hate at the same time. I do believe he said and did the right thing in the context of the movie. And so now I'm just going to return to that podcast episode. I don't think I said the wrong thing at all, but I did say certain things which certain people would say that I did say the wrong thing because they don't like the things I have to say. I think you can hear in that audio that I did have a little bit of a lack of confidence in myself in the way that I paused and considered, what am I going to say, and how are people going to react to that? But I think in time, I will worry less because while it's true that people will dislike what I have to say, and while they'll believe that I said the wrong thing, I'm grounded in knowing that from my perspective, I'm saying the right thing, in connection to being in solidarity with myself and other people who struggle under harmful systems. And if those people that I'm in solidarity with are telling me that I said the wrong thing, I'll pay much more attention to what they have to say. So I think also this connects with abolition. I'll say one more connection and then finish up. Yeah, the connection of Mookie expressing love and hate all at once. That's what abolition is. Abolition is about hating the harmful systems that are keeping us down and loving our potential and loving our connections with each other. And so, yeah, we're going to tear down this pizzeria. We're going to tear down the police or whomever else, whatever else, right? And put something better in its place. And, you know, the people who get it, the people who are like, yeah, this is the right thing, great. The people who don't, too bad. Yeah, I know that my friend Anarcho Relating or Sally was making a video that's sort of similar to this. So when that's ready, I don't know who's going to publish their video first, but when that's ready, that'll be in the description as well. Yeah, I'd be curious if you'd like to answer. Did I say the right thing in this video? Let me know.
This is the mayor talking.
All right.
Doctor,
Come on, what?
always do the right thing.
That's it?
That's it.
I got it. I'm gone.
Thanks for watching this video. This screen's a placeholder until I start to accrue more Patreon subscribers, at which point this is where I'll say thank you. Having patrons helps me to continue to make these videos, so if you feel you're getting something from them, consider becoming a patron. And Patreon is linked in the description as well as on my YouTube profile via all my links link. Additionally, if you like this video or share your thoughts in the comments or share this video with other people who might like it, all of these things help to ensure that this video can continue to reach people who might find it helpful. If you live or work in Pennsylvania and would be interested in scheduling a consultation to talk about becoming my therapy client, you can click to my YouTube page and then again click all my links link, and one of those links will be my therapy website, and that's where you can contact me. Say you're coming from YouTube. And if you'd like to contact me about this channel, please use the email that is listed under my About page. Thanks for your continued support, I do deeply appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video.